Hello everyone, welcome back to Vedic Enigma. So I hope that all of you are doing great. And the video is finally here. So Mercury conjunction with all the other planets in English. And I know that it was long pending. So I will be covering Mercury conjunction with all the other eight planets in this video. And then we will also be taking up comments that were left out in the previous videos. So let's start with the video. But before we start, I would really appreciate if you like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It will really mean a lot to me. And your support and love also means a lot to me. I read all the comments and I also try to reply to all the people. I'm sorry if any of the comments have been missed out or left out. I try as much as possible to reply to everyone. So let's start with the video now. So as we know that there have been previous parts also that have been made of Mercury conjunctions, but those videos are in Hindi. But if you're someone who understands both the languages, so I would really, request that you should watch those videos also because there might be few information and few things that, I would have covered in those videos that might not be mentioned in this video. So just to get the maximum information possible, I would request that you see, both the videos. So it would help you to get more knowledge and more information about the conjunctions. And of course, like when we talk about Mercury, so we know that it is the planet of intellect and it is a very like smart planet. If we see people around us, it represents our friends, it represents our education, and it's a Rajasic planet because it is a materialistic planet. So all the things that you see that you really want to have in your life, like tangible things, so they also come from Mercury. So we keep thinking that Venus is the planet which gives us luxury, which gives us wealth, but Mercury is equally important. And also when we talk about a profession, as we know that Mercury is the karak of the 10th house also, along with Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn. So we have to take into consideration Mercury as well if we are looking at somebody's profession and what work they should do. And like I had mentioned in the previous videos, also Mercury represents our skills, the things that we are good at doing, the things that naturally come to us. So there may be a few things that, you see somebody and you feel like, oh, they are naturally talented with this, they are so good at speaking, they are so good at doing maths. Like, for example, I told this in the previous videos also. So I am very weak at physics. I don't understand physics that much. And I struggled a lot, with that subject. But maybe for another person, physics is like a cakewalk for them and, it comes naturally to them. So like this, it really depends and it, shows that in which area your mind is working basically, because it is your buddhi, it is your intelligence. So it may be possible that if suppose Mercury is with moon, so you are more intelligent at grasping things related to moon. Like for example, if you do anything related to psychology, for example, if you do anything related to chemistry, that is liquids. So in that area, you will do well, your mind will work well. So like this, we can also see, that what stream, what education the child should do. And even if suppose you have completed your education in terms of your career also, what is the job role that you should pick up? What is that area in which your mind will work? So if you want to assess that, so for that also Mercury's placement becomes extremely important. And there are a few living significations also that we have around us. For example, our friends, our cousins, our relatives, even the co-workers that you have. So people who are always like you are surrounded by those people and you're interacting with them on a regular basis. So they will also come under Mercury. So like this, we can see for, each planet. Now, depending upon that, with which planet Mercury is conjunct in the chart, the results will differ. It will show that how your communication is, how your learning ability is. So all the things that we have to look from Mercury, we will better be able to assess that with the help of conjunctions. So let's start with the first conjunction, which is of Mercury and Sun. So as we know, it is a very, very common conjunction to have, and so many people will have this. It is known as, Budh Aditya Yoga because Mercury is always very, very close to the Sun. So, that is the reason why so many people naturally have this in their chart. But the thing is that you would feel like every person who is born with this conjunction would be very intelligent, would be very smart. It is not true to that extent also because the true results really come when Mercury and Sun are placed in the right house, in the right signs. So over here, it is very important to see the placement of Mercury and whether other planets are also conjoined this, so that will also differ. So for example, if we look at certain houses, for example, the first house, the fifth house, the ninth house, these are all knowledge houses. They are the trine, 159 trine. And they naturally have that fire element in them. So when Mercury Sun conjunction happens in these houses, it gives much better results in terms of the person's intelligence, in terms of the person's knowledge and how well-rounded they are as a person. And also when it comes to the signs, so again, suppose this conjunction is happening in watery signs like Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. So in that, this conjunction will not perform that well because Mercury is also not strong in these signs and it naturally gets debilitated in the sign of Pisces. And Sun also is not strong in water signs. So that is why for this conjunction to perform the best, either it should be happening in an earth sign, for example, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. So even though Capricorn is inimical to Sun, but still because it's an earth element, it will do well. Or suppose if we see it is happening in a fire sign, like in which Sun is exalted, then also we can see the true results of this conjunction. And what are the results that we can expect? So as we know that Mercury is our intellect, it's our education also. So the person can have a lot of interest and inclination towards learning about political science, learning about, they can be involved in some government related profession also with this conjunction. And in terms of the living significations of Sun, we see that father is represented by, the planet Sun in astrology. So when it's conjoined Mercury, it also indicates that father will have, like qualities related to Mercury. So father can be very money-minded. Father can be very good with numbers. Father can be very talkative, can be very youthful. So what all things, Mercury naturally represents. So those qualities will now come in the father. So this is how it has to be seen. And also some of the other things that come with this conjunction is that when such a person attains their education, like when they start their education, they can become very confident post that. So their confidence is somehow linked with the amount of knowledge and the amount of degrees that they have. Because what happens when you start learning something, formally, and you start getting degrees, you educate yourself more. So your confidence, the sun is because conjoined with Mercury, so confidence naturally becomes more, and the person can even attain that fame, recognition, reputation increases, post attaining that education. So they could be having some education done from a very highly reputed institute also, with this conjunction. So that can also be a possibility. And some of the other things also that we see is that so as we know that Mercury also represents your friends, your cousins, relatives. So when it is conjoined Sun, it can even indicate that some of their friends, cousins, or relatives, or people in the maternal side of the family, they can be very famous or they can have a high reputation and status. So that is also indicated with this. And the sign in which this conjunction is happening will also play a very important role. And the degrees of the conjunction is also very important to look at. Because suppose Sun is at 5 degrees and Mercury is at 28 degrees, then it is a very weak conjunction to have. But if it is very closely conjoined, it's within 6, 7 degrees, then we can say that it's a fairly good conjunction, strong conjunction to have. So for example, if suppose Sun and Mercury conjunction is happening in air signs like Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, then it can indicate that father will be fond of socializing. Father can have a lot of friends, and the native himself or herself will also have a lot of friends, and they will be people who will like to go to parties. They will like to network with people. So that kind of air element becomes very prominent in them. And suppose if it is happening in Earth, signs like Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, especially in Taurus and Virgo, it can indicate that the person and their father can be very money minded. They will be very like good with numbers, calculations, and they can have a lot of good knowledge about accounts and all Mercury related things. So father can also be a lawyer with this or can have a business. So like this we can see, but again, you have to look at if suppose some other planets are also conjoined this conjunction and are aspecting it, so the results will differ a bit. Then there are a few other things that we can see from shows that somewhere their ego and pride, comes from the education and knowledge that they have. So in certain cases, in certain signs, you will see that such individuals will like to boast a lot, about the knowledge and how much information they have with them. So this is also a possibility, but overall it is a good conjunction to have. But the strength of this conjunction will really depend upon the sign in which it is placed in the house. Because suppose it is happening in the 8th house or the 12th house, then maybe you cannot say all these things for the person, because in those cases, because Sun is in the 8th house, so in certain cases, in certain signs, it can indicate the person can have low self-confidence or can have self-esteem issues. So that can also be a possibility. But if suppose it is in the sign of Sagittarius in the 9th house, it's in Leo, in the ascendant, so then the conjunction itself has a lot of strength. So this is how it needs to be seen. Coming to the next planet now, so Mercury and Mars conjunction. So if we talk about the planet Mars, so we know that it's a very hot-headed planet and it has an aggressive energy to it. It's very impulsive. It's a masculine planet. And Mercury represents our speech, the way that we express ourselves. So such individuals are firstly very, very blunt. They're very straightforward with their communication. They don't like to waste a lot of time in just, beating around the bush. They just like to go straight to the point. So sometimes it can be a problem because, at times we require diplomacy, we require tact to handle relationships. But again, if we see for competition, to like get promoted at your workplace, this can be a good conjunction to have. So you see that how the same conjunction can maybe be very detrimental for a relationship to, build a relationship with somebody. But the same conjunction can be good for competition. It can be good for somebody who can become a surgeon, because it's also a very technical conjunction now. So Mars, Mercury people, you will see they can be good lawyers, they can be good surgeons, they can be good with, basically anything to do with manual skills. So even if it's like, you see people in the garage mechanic who are fixing cars, who are fixing instruments. So those kind of things are also very, good. The people are very good who have this conjunction. Similarly, they can type, very fast. So they can be a typist or people who have a lot of, hand skills like being used in their work. Even somebody who can be a dentist with this. So like this, you have to see that how the conjunction, for which activities, for which professions, the conjunction is favorable and for which things it is not so favorable. And also you will see such people can become very good with numbers. They can be extremely good with maths, as a subject. That is also seen. And because now Mercury is also your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, and it is conjoined a very heavy, this energetic planet like Mars. So it can create some fights, arguments with friends, with neighbors, so that kind of a thing can also be seen. Or such people always have a tendency to debate, to argue and to give it back. So that is why sometimes people don't like them also, because they feel like, they're always in that mode of, competition types. But it is good for somebody who is a lawyer, because, in a profession of a lawyer, you are naturally using these traits, and it is kind of helping you in your work. And also, this is good for somebody who wants to do mechanical engineering. Like, as a stream, if you have not decided as a student that what is the area in which you should go for. So maybe mechanical engineering can be one area that you can look at, especially if the sign also supports it. But if we see that, suppose the sign is, a Venetian sign, like a Taurus or Libra, then maybe it could support a profession, for example, of somebody who's a wedding planner, also somebody who does event management, because that is also work which is very manual, in the sense that you have to be on ground, you have to handle so many things, there's a lot of coordination that's involved. But it also has a Venus element to it, because you are planning weddings, you're planning events, so that Venus element is also there. So you have to see that, okay, or somebody who wants to be a makeup artist, for example. So again, that, technical skill is there, because you're using your hand to, beautify something. But because it is makeup related, it's beauty related, that Venus element is also there. So again, depending upon the sign in which it is placed and how close the conjunction is, you can get more flavor out of it. And in a lot of cases, you will see such individuals are also very good at, martial arts. They can be good at karate, so those kind of things, or they can have their hobbies, interest linked to these, so they can be fond of watching very action, kind of films and violence, those kind of things, because Mars is there. And also, they can have a very good sense of humor with this, so that is also seen. So people who are stand-up comedians can also have this conjunction. So you see that how much diversity, the same conjunction has. It can even make somebody who is a stand-up comedian and somebody who is a surgeon. So it is very vast, But again, like, because to see profession, you also have to look at other things, other factors also need to be seen. And this is only one thing, on the basis of which I am explaining. And then we also see that for a female, we see, husband, if you want to look at the qualities of the husband, so we will look at Mars. Now, because it is conjoined Mercury, so it can indicate the husband will be very jovial in nature, very childlike, or will be very talkative and very youthful and very friendly relation, with the husband. And somebody who can have a lot of knowledge, intellect in terms of they can have an MBA or they can have their own business. So something will be there in their personality that will show that, okay, the Mercury effect is now coming into play. And but one thing is for sure, that they will not be serious, like they'll not be very kind of boring in that sense. Like, if suppose Mars was with Saturn, so you can maybe see somebody who is very traditional, who is very orthodox, and can get serious at times. But with Mercury and Mars, you will see that the person is very cheerful and very, childlike, very friendly kind of a. Mars Mercury conjunction in certain cases can also give breaks in education, or they might have to change their education, suddenly to something different. So that is also a possibility. Or during the time when they start their education, something sudden happens in their life or in their family around the time when they are going to do their education. So that is also indicated. But if you are pursuing an education that is linked with that Mars element, like suppose they go in army, or they go and do something like sports management, for example, or mechanical engineering, like I said, then this combination supports it. Then it will not create those problems. So it really depends whether you are using the significations of that planet or not. So these are some of the things that you can see from Mars and Mercury conjunction. And again, like, you will see that no conjunction is entirely good, no conjunction is entirely bad. It really depends on the area in which you are focused on and what you want to do in your life. So next conjunction we will talk about is Mercury and Moon conjunction. So suppose you have these two planets conjoined together, or even if suppose you have them in trine to each other, like suppose Moon is in the first house, Mercury is in the fifth house or in the ninth house, then also we will say that it's a Mercury Moon conjunction. So in Bhrigu Nadi, we call this conjunction as Kapat Yoga, which is also known as yoga for cheating. And it is indicated that such a person can get cheated by other people very easily. So this is what the classical texts say about this yoga. And also with this conjunction, you will see that such an individual is very, very intelligent, firstly, because you see that Moon is your mind, your feelings, your emotions, and Mercury is your intellect, it's your buddhi. So now two of them are coming either in the same house or they are coming in close contact with each other. So such a person is very intellectually mature. They are very intelligent and they have a lot of, uh, good sense of what needs to be said where, and also how to understand the other person intuitively, emotionally. So in those things, they are very good. So they can again be a very good therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, people who are dealing with the mind or dealing with emotions of other people. So for that kind of a profession, this conjunction can be very well suited. Even I've seen people who are very good with languages, who have done English literature or they have done any, thing in chemistry also, for example, or they can be a chef also, hospitality. So anything that is connected with moon or where you require those elements of moon, so they can do well in those areas. Their mind will work well in those areas. So that is what is indicated. And with this conjunction, we also see that for their learning to happen, they have to be in a very emotionally safe space. Then only they can grasp things and they can understand concepts better. So suppose you put them in an environment where there are a lot of people around and there is a lot of chaos and, they are not able to understand and comprehend that well. But if they sit at peace, and if they try to understand or learn anything on their own by sitting in isolation, in which, in their home, in that kind of an environment, their learning happens in a much better manner. That can also be indicated with this conjunction. And they will also, you will see that such an individual, they can have a lot of sisters, they can have sisters in their family, like that feminine energy can be highly pronounced in their vicinity also, or they could have cousin sisters. If not, their own sisters, they can have cousin sisters who would have a lot of, who would provide a lot of emotional healing to them, emotional support to them. And they also can get emotional support and healing from their friends, or they can be emotional around their friends. Like, they can either have friends who are very sensitive or very emotional, they start crying at everything, or they themselves get emotional when they meet their friends and, long lost friends types, or even the people that they are always hanging out with. So that kind of a thing is also indicated with this. And they might have to travel a bit far away for their education, for learning to happen. So that is also a possibility with this conjunction. So like this, we see that, different things coming out of, this one conjunction, but it definitely shows that they are very good with, grasping of numbers, grasping anything which requires intelligence. Their mind works very well in those areas, even things like problem solving, even things where a lot of logic analysis, those kind of things are involved, because now mind is getting influenced by Mercury. So all the Mercury related things which, in which Mercury strong Mercury is very much required in all the professions. So there they can perform their best. So this is what is seen from Mercury and Moon conjunction. Then we move to the next conjunction, which is Mercury and Jupiter conjunction. So now that is Mercury and Jupiter conjunction. So if Mercury and Jupiter are conjoined in your chart anywhere, and suppose even if they are in trine to each other, like Mercury is in the first house, Jupiter is in the fifth house, or in the ninth house, then also we can say that both of these planets are conjoined together. So what happens with this conjunction is that, imagine that you are putting a student and a teacher in the same room. So Jupiter is the guru, it's the professor, the teacher, and Mercury is the student. So definitely student always has that curiosity to ask more questions, from the teacher. So in some sense, this conjunction is excellent. It is really good for, attaining knowledge, for becoming an intellectual. And such individuals, you will see that they can do very well, like in terms of medicine, they can be good doctors, they can be good lawyers, or they can do PhDs, they can do very well in any area that requires an attainment of a lot of knowledge. So for that, it is excellent. But at the same time, it also creates a conflict in the sense that there is always this sense of opposition that is happening in this house, wherever this conjunction is. There is a dilemma that the individual is always in the dilemma that whether they should operate more on faith and trust, or they should be more logical and practical. Because Mercury as a planet tells you to do things practically, to do things logically. It makes you money minded. On the other hand, Jupiter is a very sattvic kind of a planet, and it makes you more spiritual, religious. So the ideologies of both the planets are very, very different from each other. So that is why, suppose if this conjunction is happening in the 10th house, for example, then the person will be very like, dilemmic, situation. In a dilemma, they will be like, at workplace, should I be more practical or should I trust people? So that kind of a conflict is always running in their mind. If suppose this conjunction happens in the 7th house, so then again they will have this dilemma that whether they should choose a partner that their family and their values are, getting aligned with, or they should choose a partner who is, able to fit in into their logistics, or is able to, or practically makes sense, or looks good on paper, So what kind of a spouse they should choose. So that confusion can arise due to this conjunction, in whichever house this will, sit in, and what all significations or what all things that house represents. But in general, you will see that such people are very, very, confident, and their confidence increases when they attain more education and they attain more knowledge. So they will not be afraid to speak their mind. They will be very opinionated. And especially suppose if this happens in fire signs like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, especially when they attain their education, the more number of degrees or the more knowledge that they attain, the better, their wisdom becomes, and the better they become at dealing and handling life. Like their optimism, their hope, faith, everything kind of increases. And they can also get more religious or spiritual, with time as they progress in their learning journey. So that can also be a possibility with this. And Mercury also represents our friends, our cousins, the maternal side of the family, people who are always very close to us, even the co-workers that we have at workplace can be represented by Mercury. So when Jupiter is in contact with Mercury, it can indicate that the friends that they have around, they are very wise. They are full of knowledge and intellect, not intellect, full of knowledge. And they are very good at advising and counseling them. So suppose with this conjunction, you feel that you are lost, if suppose you feel you're lost and you don't know what to do. So maybe if you ask your friend and you ask, all Mercury related significations, like maternal side of the family or cousins, they can guide you better. They can give you good advice to handle things in your life. So that is also seen with this conjunction. And it also shows that the friends and the maternal side of the family will also be very knowledgeable. You can have a lot of intelligent, educated people in the mother side of the family. You can have a lot of friends who can be PhD doctors and who can be very good in their respective areas, and they have reached a respectable, position. So that kind of a thing is also seen. And suppose Venus is also conjoined this conjunction, whether by aspect or suppose it's in the conjunction, then it is known as something called as Saraswati Yoga. So again, it is for knowledge, it is for attaining Vidya. And so that is why certain conjunctions are there that are very knowledge-based conjunctions. They can give you and make you the best of best, in terms of you will be the smartest person in the room and you will have answers to all the questions. So this conjunction is one of them. And they will also be fond of reading books. Can be fond of writing. So all things related to Mercury will be expanded, with the help of Jupiter's energy. And so overall, it is a very positive, yoga to have in the chart. But the only thing is that you have to be a bit careful about, the dilemma, like, whether you should focus on more Mercury related things or more Jupiter related things. Now, this will also depend upon the sign in which it is placed. So suppose we imagine that this conjunction is happening in the sign of Virgo. So, or in Gemini. So you very well know that Mercury is winning the game now. So the person will think more practically, will be more logical, and they will not listen so much to the Jupiterian, wisdom. But suppose if this happens in Sagittarius, if this happens in Pisces, where Mercury is debilitated, so there Jupiter is winning the game, and the person will be focused, like the person will make decisions more related to Jupiterian things. So that is also one way to look at it, that how it needs to be seen. And the degrees of this conjunction also matter a lot. Like suppose Mercury is at 7 degrees, Jupiter is at 21 degrees, and it's a very far away, it's not a very strong conjunction. So we will talk about the next conjunction now, that is Mercury and Venus conjunction. So Mercury Venus conjunction is a very sweet conjunction to have, and I've seen a lot of people who have this conjunction. They are very creative, very artistic, and it's a very strong conjunction to have if you want to do anything like professionally. Also, if you want to be involved in a creative profession, it's a very good yoke to have. And such people have very sweet, communication. Their speech is very sweet, very diplomatic. They will never be straightforward or to the point, like how we saw in Mercury and Mars conjunction. So in that sense, it's a very positive conjunction to have. The only downside, few flip sides of this conjunction are that, firstly, Mercury, as we know, it's a very logical, practical kind of a planet. And it also represents multiplicity. It's also connected with money. So what happens when these two planets are together, even if suppose it's in the first house or suppose it's happening in the trine, like suppose Mercury is in the first house, Venus is in the fifth house, or Venus is in the ninth house, then also we can say that this Mercury-Venus yoga is getting formed. So they become very practical in their relationships also at times. And I've seen this if suppose it happens in Gemini, in Virgo. They are very practical, and sometimes they make the relationship seem like a business deal or like an agreement. And they don't become emotionally attached to somebody, but they are looking at how the relationship is looking on the surface. So in some sense, it can make the relationship look very superficial. So that is one downside of it. Second thing is that certain money related aspects keep coming in the relationship, or they can also have an impact on the relationship. So sometimes due to friends or due to money, the relationship can get distorted or can have some misunderstandings in the relationship can evolve due to the involvement of, either your friends, or suppose like in certain case, a relationship was going well and a certain friend came and they brainwashed the friend that, don't go for this person. So something like this can happen, or, money related things can come, like, the person is like, I have more money than you don't have that much money. So because of that, certain misunderstandings can arise in the relationship. So that is also seen. And at times, it can also indicate multiplicity of relationships, provided you have to check if suppose Rahu is influencing this conjunction, what is the placement of the seventh house, what is happening in the Navamsha. So to give a conclusion like that, you have to look at a lot of other factors. It's not so easy to say that just because somebody has a Mercury-Venus conjunction, they would cheat or they would have a lot of multiple relationships. It's not like that. But overall, I have seen that with this conjunction, these individuals themselves are very sweet. They're very polite. And if you want to see your spouse, and if you're a male, so because Venus is conjoined Mercury, so it can indicate that the spouse will be very talkative, will be very childlike, youthful in nature, and she can be younger to you in age also. That is also a possibility, and will be very intelligent and smart, because Mercury, as a planet, also we know that it's the planet of intellect, and it's good with numbers, it's good with impressing people. So that charming ability will be there, in the native themselves and in the spouse also. And such individuals are also very can be flirtatious also with their speech, and they can be very romantic also. So that is also seen with this conjunction. But overall, it's a very beautiful yoke to have, provided you are doing something professionally which is catering to this conjunction. And such individuals, it also shows that their hobbies and interests, what all they like doing, or what all skills that they have. So it will all be Venus related skills, like their hobbies can be around painting, singing, dancing, anything creative, like it can even be knitting, something like that. So where some beautification is required, where aesthetics are, required, you can even be like an interior designer with this. You can be a makeup artist with this. So the, range is a lot. So I'm just giving you certain examples, but that beautification element, that aesthetics, looking good, that element will always be there with this conjunction. And they can also have certain friends, with this conjunction, who can be very wealthy. They can come from a rich background, so that is also a possibility. Or they can be very well groomed, they can be very beautiful. So the friends and the maternal side of the family, so that can also be seen with this conjunction. So next conjunction we talk about is Mercury and Saturn conjunction. So suppose you have Mercury Saturn in the same house, or Mercury Saturn is trine to each other. Like suppose Mercury is in the first house, Saturn is in the fifth house or in the ninth house. Then we will say that it's a Mercury Saturn yoke that is getting formed in the chart. So like I mentioned previously, also Mercury is your skills, it's your communication, and it's the things that you're naturally good at. So when it's conjoined Saturn, firstly, it shows that such individuals are very good at working hard. Hard work is something that is kind of their strength, in a way. And it also indicates that they can have a lot of knowledge about things related to Saturn. So for example, people who have interest in law, people who have interest in history, because it's, related to the past, or people who are, like archaeologists, like who study monuments, who, buildings. So those kind of things, or things that are connected with the eighth house, because Saturn is the karak of the eighth house. So all like dark, related things like research, occult, and things, connected with like mortuaries, things connected with insurance, things connected with mining. So all those kind of things, are something now in which Mercury is getting, Mercury is getting knowledge about, and Mercury's brain is now working in those areas. So all like eighth house related stuff, they can do very well in those areas. So that can be like, if as a student, like you are not able to decide like which stream you should go for, so maybe you can pick up something that is naturally connected with Saturn. And Saturn also represents things related to administration, like things that require a lot of organization, things that require a lot of structuring. So any task, any activity, any job that involves a lot of those repetitive or mundane kind of tasks, or things that are have to be done in a structured, aligned manner, in which a job in which you don't have a lot of creativity. So that is the kind of job that they can do well in, because their Mercury is getting conjoined Saturn. And in a lot of cases, I've seen that such individuals can have a very slow speech, like they don't speak a lot. They can be introverted, or they have, they stammer while speaking. So that can also be a possibility. Or they're slow learners in certain cases, like they take a lot of time to understand and grasp certain subjects, because Mercury represents your intelligence and how well you are able to grasp something, and Saturn kind of slows it down. So that is one of the things that is seen with this conjunction. Similarly, their speech, the way that they express, sometimes they are not able to, there is a blockage, that they feel like they are not able to express their feelings, their thoughts, what they are like. They might be thinking a lot of things deeply in their mind, because it also indicates that subconsciously their thoughts are very deep. Even if they see something, they will observe very deeply about things. So that is the good side of this conjunction. So they can even be very good, as detectives or as spies also, like somebody who is getting connected with the eighth house with research work. But the thing is that sometimes their thoughts are not able, they're not able to verbalize their thoughts clearly, so other people are not able to understand what they are trying to say. So that can be a possibility with this. And it also indicates that they can have certain challenges or certain disagreements with their friends. With their friends, they don't have a very kind of close knit kind of a bond with them, or they don't get a lot of help from friends. So, or they have friends but they are all elder to them in age, so that can also be indicated with this conjunction. And it also indicates that somewhere they can have skin related issues also. But again, you have to look at other cases also, like other houses and the sixth house. But because Mercury represents our skin, and Saturn is also connected with skin in some sense, so it can indicate certain skin related things as well, so they should take care of their skin also. And but overall, we see that if suppose they want to go in for a profession, and with this they are thinking that what they should be doing, so ideally it should be a profession that has to be at core connected with Saturn. So that if they pick up something of that, then they can do really well in that. Like I told you, like something related to law, something related to history. Like if you want to be a history professor, if you want to be an archaeologist, if you want to do anything to do with the eighth house or with the 12th house, even in things related to healthcare, like eighth and 12th, because eighth house is emergencies, and 12th house also we see that it's related to hospitals, and Saturn is the karak of the 12th as well. So 6th, 8th, 12th. So anything that is connected with solving other people's miseries, other people's, tension, if they like when you come to a doctor also, the person is tensed and they have something going on. So any profession that is helping people, like that is, giving them that aid, so any profession related to connected with that, they can do well in those things. So this was about Mercury and Saturn. So next planet we will talk about is Mercury and Rahu. So suppose you have Mercury, Rahu together in the first house, or you have Mercury in the first house, Rahu is in the fifth house, or Rahu is in the ninth house. Then also we can say that it's a Mercury Rahu conjunction that is being formed in the chart. So we know that Mercury is a planet that gets influenced very quickly, very easily by any other planet. So when it is conjoined, connected with Rahu, so it can get influenced in some negative sense also. And I saw a lot of people having this combination, because last time I asked, so many people had Mercury Rahu together. So it really has to be seen now, the dispositor, of this conjunction, how well it is placed, which other planets are impacting or influencing this conjunction. So that will show you the true picture, that whether this conjunction is operating in the positive sense or whether it is operating in the negative sense. So by positive, negative, what do I mean is that this same conjunction can make you an excellent coder. The same conjunction can make you somebody who is an excellent person, who can be a spy detective also, who can be very good at observing minute things, who can do very well in research, who can do very well in anything connected with drugs and pharmacy. They can do PhD in that. So for all of those things, the same conjunction can give you so many insights, can make you perform the best, in that area, because you have picked up a domain that is getting connected with Rahu. So in that, it is helping you to attain that, intellect, and it is helping your brain work well in those areas. But suppose you don't pick up anything connected with these areas or anything connected with Rahu, and you pick up something that is very different. So then it can, in certain cases, indicate some trouble, or it can give you certain challenges, with respect to that area. So I've seen a lot of people with this conjunction who are very good. They have done computer science, they are good coders, they're good engineers. And even in engineer's chart, you will find Mercury Ketu also along with Mercury Rahu. Because for an engineer, Mercury becomes an extremely important planet, and it's a natural, naturally rules the third house, the sixth house. So these two houses are very important and crucial. And it also shows that, the person's intelligence can sometimes operate in the wrong direction also. They can be very clever in terms of, to know that how can they kind of dupe the other person, how they can gain some benefit out of the other person. So in that sense, it can go in the negative direction because they are always kind of thinking what they can gain. So it kind of makes the person a bit selfish, in a certain sense. Or in certain cases, I've also seen that they themselves get duped, they themselves get cheated by their friends or by their cousins or their maternal side of the family. So they have maternal side of the family have cheated on them, on their family. So that can also be a possibility. So it is really depending upon the situation of the sign in which it is placed and which planets are conjoined and how well the dispositor is placed. So seeing the overall picture only, you can tell that what exactly will happen. But yes, there are themes of cheating with this conjunction. So either they themselves have that thing or they are getting cheated by someone. So that is one of the things that is seen. And with this conjunction, they always say that we should be very careful with whom we are picking as our friends. Like, who are the people that we are associated with, and what are the things that we are posting, online on social media, because it's also the third house. So, because that will have a lot of influence and say. Now, suppose with the same conjunction, you pick up friends who are very malefic in the sense that they are not there to help you, but they are there to kind of they become happy or they are jealous of you. So that can also be a possibility. So one has to be very careful with whom they trust and who they are choosing as their friends, especially if this is happening in the 11th house or the 11th lord is somehow connected. Like if the 11th lord is Mercury and this conjunction is happening, then again they have to be very careful with that. But again, like, the positive sides of this conjunction is also that in today's day and age, for any profession, for any job, you require the intelligence of Mercury. So even if they pick up anything, they can, if this conjunction is working in the positive sense, if it is strong, like if suppose it's happening in earth signs like Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, or in air signs where Rahu is strong, like, in both these elements. So it can make you grasp very quickly, like they will be very intelligent. They'll be very good with numbers, they'll be very good with communication, they can be very smart. So you can basically, like, it's very easy for them to adapt. That adaptability skill, that flexibility, that also comes from Mercury. So if you put them in any environment that is even a bit unfamiliar to them, they will, within days, they will learn and they will, adapt to that environment. So that is the positive, the brilliant side of this conjunction. So here Rahu is actually helping you, to become more smart, to become more money minded also. They'll be very money minded also with this conjunction. But overall, you see that, it really depends that which education stream, which profession you are picking. Suppose you pick up any profession, anything connected with, like, aviation, like photography, with pharmacy, with drugs, and with all those things that Rahu is prominent, computer science. So in those areas, this conjunction is really going to help you. So that is how, So with Mercury and Rahu conjunction, we also see that because Mercury represents your education and your learning, so they might have to travel to a faraway place or to a different country, to attain their education. And in certain cases, I've also seen that people who attain multiple degrees, like, they have done 3 degrees, 4 degrees. So in their charts also, you will see Mercury Rahu conjunction because Mercury represents your education and Rahu is multiplicity. So, that is also indicated with this. Next conjunction we move to is Mercury Ketu conjunction. So suppose you have Mercury Ketu in the first house, or you have Mercury in the first house, Ketu is in the fifth house, or in the ninth house, then what will be the results? So firstly, this conjunction shows that, whatever knowledge, whatever education, things that in this life. So there is a very strong linkage of past, past life getting connected with it. And you've already mastered those things, and that is why any kind of knowledge that you feel is coming very easy to you, or you are able to grasp that subject very quickly. So it shows that it is something that you were born with it, like, it is coming from the past. And that is why it was very effortless for you to do well in that area. Secondly, we also see that in certain cases, it can indicate certain breaks in profession, or they might have to change their stream, altogether. So in few cases, this might not happen. Now, this will not happen if you pick up an education stream that is purely getting connected with Ketu. So Ketu connection, like we see things like microbiology, see things like electrical engineering, law, anything connected with animals, like you are a vet, you have done, education in that, to become a vet. So anything that is purely like connected with healing, with Ayurveda, with occult, or it is getting connected with yoga, spirituality. So if you are doing education related to Ketu related things, then it will not create that big of a problem. But if you pick up a stream, for example, like economic honors with this, BCom honors, so they are very generic, they are more Mercury related things, especially like accounts or something like that. So that is something which, does not have a lot of connection with Ketu as such. But if you pick up a field that is, genetic research that is getting connected purely with Ketu or with research, or you do a PhD with this. So in those cases, this combination will support. And I've seen that, like I know a person who has done PhD and they have done it successfully without any breaks, and they have done it in field related to Ketu. So that is why it has not given any break as such. So just by seeing the conjunction, we cannot immediately jump to the conclusion that this will happen. So you have to see that what is the thing that the person is doing. With this, we also see that because Mercury represents your friendships, your cousins, your maternal side of the family. So either the person is very distant, from them, like they live in some other place, or they are not able to maintain that friendship that well. Like they could maybe be living in some other country, or even if they have friends, then some breakup happens, some misunderstanding happens, and then there is a patch up. So something like this can be a possibility with this. And with this conjunction, it can produce really good mathematicians, who are very good with numbers, who are, they can be very good lawyers also with this conjunction, Mercury Ketu. And anything in which your basically your intelligence, your communication, everything is getting very microscopic now. So even any job role that you're doing in which you feel like analyst, data analyst is something, or research analyst, or something where you have a lot of numbers, information, and you have to micro analyze everything. You have to section it, narrow it down. So any work that is connected with that kind of a role, so in that, this combination will support. It will not create any problems because it shows that your mind is so sharp that you are able to narrow those details down. And it makes a person very detail oriented also. So that is also seen with this conjunction. And Mercury also represents traveling and anything connected with movement, like it naturally rules the third house also. So it can even indicate that such an individual can find breaks, like certain obstacles coming their way whenever they are traveling or moving to a new place. So that is also seen with this. And so again, it really depends that, which area of your life you want to focus on, and what is the professionally what you're doing, or education wise, what are the things that you are pursuing. So in those things, if you're doing connected with Ketu, this conjunction will give brilliant results. But if suppose you're doing something very different from that, then it can, indicate that Ketu related results. So that is how it needs to be looked at. So now I will be taking, your comments from the previous post. So let me see what all comments are there. Okay, so the first comment is by Raghav. So he says that he has Mercury, Venus, Sun in the fourth house in the sign of Virgo, and only Venus is combust. Okay, so since it's happening in the fourth house, and your ascendant lord is also getting connected with this, and along with that, we see that fifth lord is also getting connected with this. So, and Mercury is exalted over here. So, firstly, it would make the person very intelligent, very quick-witted, and sharp. And it is good for excelling in, any profession, any education related to Mercury. So, like for example, accounting, mathematics, MBA, marketing. So, anything where Mercury's prominence is a lot. So, for those things, it is a good conjunction to have. And you will see that with this, the spouse and their mother, like, his mother and spouse can have a lot of similar qualities. So mother will also be very talkative, very youthful, childlike, will be very friendly. And she can be a teacher also with this, or can have her own business. So, and spouse can also have similar traits and qualities. And their learning also, happens the best when they are at their home, when they are in the fourth house setup. So their Mercury will perform the best. So that is also seen with this. Next, we have Beeratt. Okay. Beeratt has asked about Mars, Venus, Mercury conjunction in the sixth house of Leo. Okay, so which shows me that you're a Pisces ascendant. So firstly, with this conjunction also, you will see that the spouse that you will be getting will be very bold, confident, assertive, very intelligent. She will have traits of Mars and Mercury. So she can be very straightforward also with her communication, and will not be a person who will be a people's pleaser, like somebody who just says something for the sake of it. So she will be very clear with her communication, and can be connected to healthcare or anything to do with the sixth house, can be a lawyer also with this, the spouse. So I'm talking about the spouse here. And the person himself, like, because you have this, so you could have a tendency to have some fights, some difference of opinions with females or with female co-workers, at your workplace. So that could be a tendency. So they have to be a bit careful around that. But overall, it's a good conjunction to clear competition, like to do well at defeating your enemies, because you see Mars is strong in the sixth house. So it's also good for professional growth. Like with time, you will see that such a person will overcome a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenges, difficulties in their life, and it will become better with time. So that is also seen. So next, we have Mahindra. Mahendra. So he has asked about Mercury, Mars, Saturn in the 12th house in Pisces. And he says that Mercury and Mars are tightly conjunct at 11 degrees and Saturn is at 24-25 degrees. Okay, so again, like we see that, so that's why degrees are actually very important, because here we see that Mercury Mars conjunction is actually stronger, right? And Saturn is ahead of it. So firstly, like Mahendra, if you do any profession, which is connected with technical skills or with number crunching, so that can be very good with this conjunction, because we see that Saturn's connection, like, behind Saturn, we still have that Mercury Mars energy. And also anything like somebody who can even be a good lawyer, with this, because like I said, Mercury Mars conjunction is very good for saying things out loud and, for being opinionated. Or you could even do and perform well in a place that is away from your home place, like in a different foreign country, or a place where the culture is very different, because we see that you're a Pisces, you're Aries descendant, and Saturn is the 10th lord also. So 10th lord is getting connected with the 12th house naturally, with Mercury and Mars. So trying for something which, is a bit far away from your city, from your actual hometown. So that can be a good way to explore, to do well professionally. But because we see that Mars is also with Saturn, so it might be indicated that certain professional hurdles might have occurred, your way. But if you do things naturally connected with Pisces sign, with the 12th house, or even something in the area of healthcare with hospitals, getting connected with that, like some technical work in the hospital. So that can also be a good way to tackle this conjunction. Okay, so next we have Rajak, who has asked about Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Pisces in the first house. Okay, so firstly, it shows me that, okay, so in this we see that energy of like sixth house, eighth house, is getting connected with the ascendant. And we see that eighth lord is also getting exalted in the ascendant. So early on, it can indicate that, the person might have faced a lot of obstacles, hurdles, in their way. So they have faced big situations in their life, and but they have overcome those situations. And after those situations, it indicates that the person really values, peace and comfort in their life. Like this person's only thing is that I don't want to involve myself in anything that disturbs my peace. So that fourth house element is very important for them. And these are the kind of qualities that they would also be looking in their spouse, somebody who can be an easygoing person, somebody who understands them emotionally. And they are, a person who goes a lot on their feelings, on their intuition. And it also shows that spouse can be very creative and artistic, and the person himself can also be that way. And because we see that in this, Mercury is also the seventh lord, and it's coming in the ascendant with Venus. So spouse, marriage, and the wife will have a lot of impact and influence on your life. Like they will play a major transformative role, because eighth house energy is also involved. So, and personality changes, like a lot of the way that they perceive life, the way that they see situations. So that will be changed with the marriage, with the spouse coming. And spouse can also bring in a lot of wisdom and new ideas, in their life. And it can show in some cases that the spouse meeting can happen like, or can be done by father, like with the help of father, with the help of friends. So that involvement can also be there. But this thing is for sure that marriage and spouse will bring in a lot of new transformation, new changes in their life. Next, we see Dhruvkailashchandra. So he has asked about Scorpio ascendant, Venus, Rahu, Mercury in the seventh house. Okay, so it's in the sign of Taurus. So Rahu is very strong, firstly, because it's sitting with two friends, and Venus is also strong. So one thing that's coming to my mind is that after marriage, spouse can bring in a lot of fame into your life. Like due to the spouse, a person can get famous. And after marriage, the person can also gain a lot, like, in terms of everything, because it's also getting connected with the 11th Lord. Spouse herself will be very intelligent, firstly, very modern, will like luxury things, best of best things, because it's Taurus and with Rahu, and they can meet them through some dating app or through some friends. And it also indicates me that, Ketu is in the first house in Scorpio and Rahu is in the seventh house in Taurus. So focus of this life, is going to be on relationships and on business. So this, he's a kind of person who will always be looking for some new ideas, So maybe if they also bring in their spouse, their business partner. So that those are the kind of themes that I see, for this life. And it also shows me that the person himself can be very looks focused and the spouse will also be looks focused. But definitely after marriage only this combination will be truly activated, and they can the Rahu can give the best results, to them after marriage. So that is seen. But because Ketu is in the first house, it shows that, in their past life, they've already become used to their first house, like first house. So they are the kind of person, they'll not be so much focused on on themselves. They'll be focused more on the other person, on the seventh house related matters. And because Mercury is also there, so your intelligence, your mind is always working on some new ideas, what I can do in business or what I can do independently. So, and this is a kind of person who requires their own freedom. The spouse will also require her own freedom and space, and the native himself will also require their own space. So they are not the kind of person I see who can work very well under somebody. They want to do their own thing. They want to expand. They have big ideas, but they want a person who can help them to do it. Then we have Mary, who is asking about retrograde Venus and Mercury conjunction in Pisces sign. And she is saying that she has been told that it will cause marriage troubles and two marriages. So, firstly, Mary, just by looking at one conjunction, we cannot say this. It's a very big statement to give to any person that you will have two marriages or marriage troubles also. So, you have to look at the Navamsha chart, you have to look at the seventh house of Navamsha, you have to look at Venus placement, in the Navamsha. So, those things are very important. And I don't even know the entire chart. So, just on the basis of this one combination, we cannot say. And but you have retrograde Venus. So this definitely shows me that some sudden events related to relationships and marriage can occur in the person's life. So either they can get married suddenly or they meet the person suddenly. So something different, something unconventional is happening with regard to relationships and marriage. And we also see that over here, the 11th Lord is also getting connected because you're a Sagittarius ascendant. So Venus is controlling the 11th house over here. So it also shows that a lot of your friends and network circles, like people from the past, keep revisiting, your life. And old friends keep coming back or they keep going, something like that fluctuation, that energy is there with respect to 11th house matters, and even with respect to 6th house matters. And because sixth lord being Venus is going in the fourth house and it's retro, so it also shows that some pending karma, something unfinished is there related to mother, related to the fourth house, related to friends, that has to be triggered again and again, and that's why people keep coming back from these places. And yeah, so that is the kind of theme that I see. And Mercury Venus, to actually see whether it is indicating multiplicity of relationships, you firstly have to look at the degrees. Degrees is very important. So I don't know whether Mercury is, retrograde Venus is moving towards Mercury or is moving away from Mercury, or which planets, are in the third house, fifth house, or in the 10th house. So those things will also matter and make a lot of difference here. Then we have Basil. So Basil is asking about, he's a Virgo ascendant and has Sun, Mercury, Saturn in Sagittarius. Okay, in the fourth house, right? So firstly, Basil, this can show that father can have a lot of influence, on the profession, on the career that you choose. Okay, or father will kind of guide you that maybe you should do this, or you are doing something which in which your father is also involved in. Like it can be a family business also in some cases. And it also shows that the karma, like a lot of service karma needs to be done towards the home, towards the mother, and towards the place where you're staying also. Like, it could be your society, your colony. So Saturn over here, because we see that for a Virgo ascendant, it's a sixth lord. So sixth house is also the house of debt. It's a house of service. And it's going in the fourth house in Sagittarius. So it tells me that it's kind of your karma and your service, needs to be provided towards educating children, towards doing something regarding education because of Sagittarius sign in your home, in your colony, in the place where you're staying, and also towards your mother. So that is indicated by this. And the person, like you yourself, can also have interest in law, in teaching, or mother or father, like any of the two can be involved in these professions. So that is also indicated, but definitely it shows me that as a family only, like your focus and like should be on, providing education to underprivileged people or doing something for them. Then we see Sagar, who is asked about Mercury, Mars, Moon, Venus, Sun, all in the 8th house in Taurus. Okay, so it's a 4 planetary conjunction in the sign of Taurus in the 8th house. And he has also mentioned the degrees. Okay, so firstly, it can indicate that, there can be some change in education or in the change of school. Like there can be either some break in education or the person has to travel to a very far away place for learning. So that is one possibility with this, but it definitely shows me that the mind is very intelligent and has a very good memory. So because you have Moon Mercury coming in the 8th house, so you should definitely make use of, and if especially if it's in Mrigashira Nakshatra, I'm not sure like if which nakshatra these planets are in. If Mrigashira Nakshatra is prominent, then it's very good for research work because Mrigashira is naturally connected with searching. Like if you see it's a deer, so it's always searching something. So that can be excellent for that. And you should do something which has that element of depth to it, because your 10th house is also getting connected with the 8th house. So in certain cases, it can indicate that the person cannot, basically, he's the kind of person who requires a lot of freedom to operate. Like you require space. You don't want somebody to be on your head all the time to tell you what needs to be done now. So if you require that isolation, that space, so it's best to do something that is connected with the 8th house or with the 12th house. So that is a way to balance it out. Or you go to a different place, like you go to a foreign country, you do something like a PhD, from some other place. So that could also be done. Because you see that it also shows that your bhagya, your luck, destiny is kind of getting connected and is taking you to a place away from your home place. Because it's 8th house is 12th from the 9th. That is also one way to look at it. So we also see that Venus over here is also the 7th lord, right? And Venus naturally represents relationships and marriage. And it has a very strong connection with the 10th house. So it shows that when the person gets married or around the time of their serious relationship, So they would have some change happening in their profession and their work life because 7th and 10th are connected. And post their marriage, their status, reputation, and all also rises post marriage because that connection is there, and Sun's involvement is also there because it's a sign of Leo. So they get fame, they get promotion, recognition at their workplace post their marriage. So that is also seen. Next, we have comment by AnjaliSingh. So she has asked about Mercury with Sun in the 6th house. I don't know about the sign in which it is happening. But if it's suppose we don't know the sign, it's a generic prediction again. But Mercury Sun in the 6th house can show firstly that your mother can be very close with her younger siblings. So your maternal uncles and aunts. So you can have a very good or a very communicative kind of a relationship with them. So that is one thing that is seen. And it also shows me that if suppose we imagine that it's happening in a very good sign like earth sign like Virgo, like Capricorn. So it's also good for competition, for being very intelligent at competing with others. And it shows that this person can, kind of defeat their enemies with their intelligence, with their tact. And also it shows that even if suppose there are so many other candidates, so they will be the person who will shine because of their communication. They will be able to defeat others because they speak well or they are very good with numbers, they're very good with analysis. So our Mercury related things will help them. And we see Mercury naturally gets exalted in the 6th house, because it's a sign of Virgo then. So it naturally performs well. And with Sun's influence, it is able to become much better and much brighter. And because it's an Upachya house, so it will definitely grow with time. So it shows that your communication, the career, and all Mercury related signification will become better with time. But again, it's a generic prediction, Anjali, because I don't know the sign over here. Then we have Yash, who has asked about Mars and Mercury in the 1st house. Lord is Jupiter. Okay, I again don't know which sign. Is it Sagittarius or is it Pisces? But let's imagine it's Sagittarius. Suppose if it's Sagittarius, then it definitely shows the person himself will be like a fighter. They can be very argumentative, very like confrontation, like they like confrontation, doing that with other people. They love debating. They will be very, they can be religious also, or they can be very staunch about their beliefs, their ideologies. So that is indicated. But if suppose it's happening in Pisces, then this flavor will be milder because it's a water sign. So over there, Mercury is debilitated. Mars also does not have a lot of strength. So those qualities will still be there, but they will not be to that peak, So that is how this needs to be seen. Then we have HituL, who has asked about Jupiter and Mercury in the 1st house in Sagittarius ascendant. Okay. Yeah, so this conjunction also I mentioned. So if you have Jupiter, Mercury in Sagittarius in the 1st house, makes a person very knowledgeable, firstly. Excellent conjunction to have for anything connected with knowledge. Like if you want to do a PhD, you want to become a doctor, you want to become a lawyer, you want to become a professor, teacher, it's a very good conjunction to have. And also we see that with this conjunction, it shows this kind of person will be very independent. Independent minded person likes to take decisions on their own with their own intelligence. They are not people who are relying on other people, so it's a good conjunction, good yoke to have in that sense, because it shows no matter what happens in their life, they are not people who are going to get influenced by other people just like that. But the downside is they would also not listen to any other people. It can make the person very rigid also at times. And they might have this tendency to force their advices, what all stuff they know on other people, which other people might not like. So that is one downside of it. But overall, it's a good conjunction to have because it gives us a lot of strength to the lagna, makes the ascendant very strong. So for that, it's very good. Next, we have so next comment is by Ivaan. So he has asked about, he's a Leo ascendant with Jupiter and Mercury, retro Mercury in the lagna. Sun is going in the 2nd house. Okay. And because Mercury is retro, so it's moving actually towards the sign of Cancer in the 12th house. So firstly, it shows me that because we see Jupiter over here is the 5th lord and it is also the 8th lord and it's going in the lagna. So in certain cases, it can indicate that 8th house related things are coming to the ascendant. So early on in the person's life, some major like transformations, major like events related to 8th house can have a huge influence impact, in their life, in their childhood. So that is a possibility with this. But because Jupiter is strong in the lagna, it is in the sign of Leo. So it is a fiery sign, and Jupiter is also a fiery planet in that sense because it's a masculine energy and it is dominating. So the person himself can also be a bit rigid. They can be very stubborn, they can be dominating, they can be a bit bossy, and they will have that strength somewhere in them to come out of anything in life. So that is the power of Jupiter in the Lagna. And we also see that it will simultaneously aspect the fifth house and the ninth house and the seventh house. So such a person or their father, it shows, can be religious also. And that there is some faith, there is some stronger faith that they believe in or their family believes in, because of which they have that strength, in them to come out of any major thing in life. That is one thing which is indicated. And we also see that Lagna Lord here is Sun, it's going in the second house. So it shows such a person will be very strongly connected with their family, with their wealth. They can be very money minded, so all second house related. Like for them, sense of financial security is very important. That is one thing that they will, like, their entire life is about getting that second house right. Because, Lagna Lord is going in the second house. And it also shows that because Mercury is, retro and it is moving in the 12th house. And Mercury for them, we also see that it's the natural 11th lord and the second lord. So it shows that there is some connection, with like some past linkages there with respect to friends, with respect to family. So the person has taken birth to somehow complete some pending stuff related to their friends, related to their family. But they should also be a bit careful with respect to the kind of friends that they make and with whom they are, they should be trusting or they should not be trusting. So that is one thing that they should be careful with. And we also see that he has mentioned that Jupiter in Cancer Navamsh. Okay, so Jupiter is getting exalted, in the Cancer Navamsh, and Mercury in Virgo Navamsh. So Mercury is also getting exalted. So because these two planets are getting exalted, so firstly it shows that, the in the later part of the life, you will have strength, you will have abilities related to to these planets. You will be able to tackle and be resilient with whatever comes your way with your intelligence and with your faith in something higher. So that is seen. Then we have another comment, last comment by he. Okay, so she has, I don't know, is it a female or a male? So they have asked about Jupiter and Mercury together in the sixth house. They have not mentioned the sign. Okay, so I don't know the sign, I don't know the degrees, but generally, like if you say that it's happening in the sixth house, so firstly, it shows that the connection and the rapport with, like, of mother with their maternal side of the family, like with their younger siblings, mother's younger siblings will be good, will be a positive, cordial relation, provided there is no malefic aspect on this and the sign is, well placed and it's in a neutral sign. So it shows that help and support will be there from, that side of the family. Then it also indicates me that, again, I don't know the sign, but Mercury in general performs well in the sixth house because it is the sign of Virgo, and in Virgo, Mercury is naturally exalted. But again, over here, it is good for clearing competition. Like if you want to become a doctor, if you want to do anything in which you require a lot of knowledge, lawyer, especially connected with sixth house matters. So for that, it is a good yoga to have. But again, other combinations of the chart also need to be seen. This is just one prediction, one generic prediction. And again, we don't even know the sign in which it is placed. So I'll not say a lot about this position, but because we don't know the other details. So these were all the comments that were there, and I hope that you learned something new from this video, and I hope that the insights were helpful to all of you. So thank you so much for watching, and see you all the next time.